This week is going to be all about gender, and today, me and my guest are going to kick it off with some lessons for our primary students. Hi, I'm Nadine, Thornhill sexuality educator. Welcome to my series, Safe Sex Ed, where I teach every sex education module from Ontario's 2015 Health and Phys Ed curriculum. So if you are returning, thank you for coming back. If you are new here, you can find out more about this series by clicking the I, which is, I believe it's up there. And you can also click the subscribe button down below and you won't miss any videos. So today I have with me Faye, who is also an amazing educator and knows all kinds of stuff about gender identity. So tell us more about yourself.
Yeah. So hi everybody, and thank you so much Nadine for having me on today. I'm super excited for this. So my name's Faye Johnstone. I use she and they pronouns. I'm a sexuality and gender educator, mostly working with LGBTQ young folks and service providers to really build their capacity to support and affirm young LGBTQ folks and particularly trans youth.
Yes. And you may notice that this is not my normal setting. That's because we're here in Ottawa, which is where Faye lives and works. But
yeah.
You work all over, right?
Yeah, I travel a fair bit for my work, mostly in Ontario, but I get around.
Nice. Previously, we talked about differences with our third graders, and that learning objective mentioned gender identity as one of the differences that might come up during a discussion about differences. So we have Faye with us, who is going to take us through a couple of activities that are specifically about gender identity and specifically for kids around this age. Mm-hmm. When we're talking about gender with younger kids, what are some things that we should keep in mind, or what are some things that we should, include in that conversation?
I think when you're talking with younger kids, kids don't really have a frame of reference for gender at a young age. A lot of the time, kids are some of the most inclusive and open-minded people in our society. So trying to avoid creating new stereotypes for them is really valuable. So talking about things that anybody can like, so not unnecessarily gendering things.
Right.
So, like girls can love football, boys can love pink dresses.
Right.
So really avoiding creating like gender stereotypes at an early age. And then celebrating the different kinds of ways that people can express their gender or express their interests in things that we think of as gendered.
Okay, I love that. A lot of people express concern to me. Parents will say, gender and gender diversity is so confusing. Mm-hmm. But I think one of the reasons it's maybe confusing for us as adults is because a lot of adults who are living now grew up with this idea that gender is binary. So we're unlearning and then relearning. And I think for kids, because they haven't learned that gender binary, it's not as confusing for them.
Definitely. I also think that a lot of us forget that we all have genders and gender identities. Even if a lot of the time when we talk about gender, we just think about like trans people.
Right.
But everybody has a gender. Everybody has an identity and a way of expressing that. And we know it's different for different people.
Right.
Some people are really masculine women or really feminine dudes. And so it's a whole spectrum of experience, and we forget about that sometimes.
Right, and it can even be different in different days. Like there are some days where I dress up and I'm, very, very feminine and, dresses and heels and whatnot. And then other days, I'm like in my jeans and my button down and, maybe not as feminine. So we've been doing this for a long time. It's gonna be fine. It will be fine. We are in luck because Faye has not one, but two activities to help kids just explore ideas around gender and diversity. So I will let you take it away with the first activity.
The first one is called Draw Yourself. I love this activity because it really helps us reflect on our own experiences of gender. And so often we think of gender as, again, a thing that other people have, but we don't spend time reflecting on our own and how we understand it. So Gender Draw is pretty simple. It requires a large sheet of paper and some drawing supplies. Nothing too fancy. You can just pull this out of your...
Like supply closet?
Yeah, okay. Exactly. So what you're going to do is you're going to ask all students to take 5 minutes drawing a picture of themselves.
Fun.
Right? So basically just draw a big picture of yourself with lots of space in the middle so you can write in it later.
Okay.
What you're going to do next is you're going to fill the inside of your body with words that you think describe you. These don't have to be super gendered words, but they can include gendered words.
Okay.
So just who do you feel like you are on the inside?
If I was going to draw myself, who do I feel like I am on the inside? Well, I definitely feel that I'm kind of dorky at times.
Same.
And I'm creative, and I try to be kind, and I'm passionate, and I can be kind of snarky and sarcastic sometimes too. I'm often internally rolling my eyes at situations.
I can relate to that. And I'm the same. Like if I were to film my inside, I would probably have like nerdiness as a very prominent thing. Way too obsessed with Netflix. I think that has become a trait that is internal to me at this point.
Okay, yeah, I have that too, actually.
But then also things like feminine. And like I feel like a very feminine person, like a caring person. Yeah, I think that's like a pretty good descriptor of some of like my core traits.
Okay,
yeah.
I love it.
And then on the outside of your body, you're gonna draw things that you like and love. So not traits of your own, but objects almost.
Okay.
So Netflix might fit there as well.
I was going to say that's where my Netflix would be. Yeah. Instagram's going to be there
exactly.
as well.
But also like toys. Like what kind of toys do you love? Like do you have a favorite blanket? Do you have like any of these things that you think of as really things that matter to you?
My bed.
Beds are important.
It's so comfortable. My pillows are amazing.
What you want to do next is you want to have everyone goes through this activity.
Okay.
Everyone draws their gender, fills out the inside and the outside, and then you're going to want to see if a couple of your students are down to share what they wrote.
Oh, okay.
And get them to talk a little bit about, like what were the traits that they most found valuable to themselves, or that best reflected who they are.
Okay.
And then what are some of their favorite objects? What are their favorite toys? What are their favorite possessions?
Right. So once we finish sort of the drawing part of the activity, then we proceed to sort of a discussion.
Yeah. So basically what you want to do next is you want to talk about how everyone has some really different things on their pieces of paper, right? Like you have some dudes who you might know might have written trucks, not to stereotype, or like girls who might have written race cars.
Right.
And so you talk about some of those things, and you talk about how it's important for each of us to feel respected for the things that we love and the things that we value, be those things that are inside of us, or be the objects that we like love and find value in around us. Have a conversation around if you feel like you should be respected for the things that you love and the things that you feel are inside of you.
Okay.
Yes, so this is,
I do.
Good, I'm glad.
and I hope they do too.
Yeah, it's just a good way to kind of get that conversation going about the fact that we all deserve to be respected by our peers. And at this point, it's not about, what our peers, about what our peers think of us,
right.
Or what they feel. It's really about like our own internal sense of self and the fact that we feel like we should be respected for who we are.
What I love about this activity is it really allows the kids to focus on themselves and just think about their own identity, because kids at this age they're very much about themselves, not in a bad way, but that's what they understand. They understand themselves, they understand their immediate group of peers. So yeah, I think this is a great way of introducing the topic, and we're not getting into like broad-based theory about gender or anything like overwhelming. We're just asking them to think about themselves, think about each other, and how each person deserves to be accepted, respected, cared for.
And a lot of the time, like young folks like need and aren't really taught to like identify like their own sense of worth and value for their unique traits. Like you can be somebody who like hates trucks and loves like really nice nail polish. And there should be a way where we help young people like discover that they can take pride in the things that they love, no matter what those things happen to be.
Oh, I love that. I mean, yeah, like I've known kids who, I've known boys who do love trucks, but they also love high heels.
Yeah.
And like that's awesome. I love trucks and high heels too.
Yeah, like I was a military brat, so I grew up on like nice small little military bases.
Ooh.
But I was a kid who was like very sensitive, and I loved that about myself. But I also played hockey for 12 years. Like we can be multiple things at the same time.
And those things can coexist. They're not contradictions. They're just different parts of who we are.
We want to end this activity by talking about how people come in all sorts of shapes and sizes.
Okay.
And how if we feel like we deserve to be respected for the things that we love, other people should have that courtesy extended to them as well.
Amazing.
Yeah, so it kind of takes that internal reflection on your self-respect and spreads it to the idea that if you feel like you should be respected, other people deserve to be respected too.
Empathy.
Exactly.
Empathy is good.
The second activity is called Gender Draw. And this is a little bit similar to the first one.
Okay.
And so what you're going to do is you're going to start by asking every student to draw a picture of themselves and some of their favorite things. And then the teacher or whoever is leading the activity is going to collect all of the drawings from all of the students.
Okay.
And then you're going to shuffle them.
Oh, like cards.
Okay. Yeah. Every kid is going to get a random drawing that somebody else drew.
Okay.
And then you're going to ask every student to imagine if they grew up and they were handed this random piece of paper that had a gender on it and a picture and all of these favorite things and these words that describe them. And if they were just handed that and told that they had to be that way.
Oh, wow.
Right? And you're going to get them to reflect on how it would feel to be told that you have to follow a roadmap that somebody else wrote for you.
Okay. So basically it's like, yeah, if, somebody was like, okay, I have to be you.
Yeah.
And I think you're awesome, but I'm not you.
Exactly.
I'm me.
Gives us a way of kind of thinking, again, it's that self-respect idea of, like we deserve to be respected for what we love and to choose how we want to exist in this world, how we want to express ourselves. And it's also about identifying that it's really uncomfortable when other people are telling you how you have to be. And that's a thing around gender that a lot of us grow up with, right? Like, and again, you can be like the tomboy who grew up and was a young girl who loved to play with the other boys, loved to go out and like roughhouse and play on the play structures and all that jazz. Or you can be like the really feminine dude, or you can be neither of those things.
Yeah.
And how, we all deserve to be able to make our own life path.
I guess depending on sort of the structure of the class or the group, you could do this. Like you could do both as one lesson, or you could do them as like 2 separate lessons over 2 classes. So yeah, that's great because we have a lot of flexibility with this. And I think it's just a really great, fun, simple way to sort of start introducing some of these ideas to our younger kids.
Both of these activities that we just chatted about can actually be activities that you bring home and do with your kids. So they're really easy, like you don't need a ton of resources or materials, so you can just like bring out some pieces of paper and have a conversation with your kid about them.
Very cool. I've mentioned in previous videos that something you can do to help avoid confusion around gender identity is to avoid conflating or equating gender and biological sex. So when we're talking to young kids, for example, about bodies, avoid using language like girls have a vulva and boys have a penis. You can just say some people have a vulva and other people have a penis. You can also expose kids to, age-appropriate media that depicts people with diverse gender expression. So for example, we were just saying off camera, I really love watching makeup tutorials. And sometimes my son will wander into the room. And so if he's around, then I might make a point of watching a tutorial by, say, Patrick Starr, who is a man, who's a makeup artist, but does a lot of fantastic makeup on himself. And it's not because I particularly care if my son wants to wear makeup or not, but I do want him to understand as a boy that there are, many, many ways that one can express themselves and that can, sort of experience masculinity, that it doesn't have to be, this very narrow set of behaviors. So that is another thing that you can do at home. Some conversation prompts you can use with your kids are questions such as, what do you think the word gender means? How do you know what your gender is? How do you know what someone else's gender is? A few resources. One is a book called Red, a Crayon Story, and it is a story all about a crayon who has a red label but is in fact blue. I've done a review of this book. It's amazing. It's one of my favorite kids' books. And it just really, in a very accessible way, talks to kids about the experience of being one thing on the inside, but being labeled something different on the outside. I also have a video that I will link to in the eye and down below about gender-inclusive vocabulary for families, which I also shot when I was here in Ottawa, but at a different time. Finally, another great book is My Princess Boy. I haven't done a review of that one yet, but I think I will at some point in the future because it's one of my favorites, and it's about a little black boy who really wants to be a princess, and it's delightful. It's a wonderful book. So check any of those out. Faye is going to be back. Faye's going to be here all week, which is amazing. But in the meantime, where can folks find you?
So I do have a website. My website is fayejohnstone.com. So that's FAEJOHNSTONE.com. And a Twitter handle at fayejohnstone.
Her Twitter is lit. Before we go, tell me in the comments, what are 3 words you would use to describe yourself? So that's all for now. I hope you all have a great day, and we will see you soon. Bye.
Bye.
You can help me continue creating free sex ed content by supporting me on Patreon. For as little as $3 a month, you'll get access to all sorts of goodies, so head on over to patreon.com/Nadine Thornhill or click the link down in the description below.